Take a break from your busy schedule and join Harold Sala for Guidelines, a 5-minute commentary on living.
When you have an enemy outside your gate, and you are only vaguely aware that he's out there, you are vulnerable. That's why people put locks on their doors and install alarms and surveillance cameras. That's also why some live in gated communities behind walls. There are times, however, when the enemy is more elusive. A casual reading of the New Testament makes you aware of the fact that the writers believe Satan was alive and well, and anyone with a grasp of what is happening in our world today must immediately recognize that old slewfoot is still with us. However, he's wiser and more sinister than ever before. Evil is rampant in our world today, and behind that force is a spiritual struggle, whether you label it good versus evil or God versus Satan. It's there, and often God's children become prime moving targets. Never forget that when Satan launched his first battle with God, he made God's children living in the garden his first target. Paul, writing to the fellowship of believers at Thessalonica, said, "For we wanted to come to you, certainly I, Paul, did, again and again, but Satan stopped us." Notice those 3 words, Satan stopped us. Here's how 3 other translations put it. Satan hindered us, King James. Satan stymied us, Message. Satan prevented us, New Living Testament. The verb Dr. Luke used when he wrote what Paul related is an interesting one. Peter used the same word, 1 Peter 3:7, when he told husbands to settle their arguments peacefully so that their prayers may not be hindered. In the first century, a secular writer used the word to describe how 2 warring factions were separated or stopped from confronting each other because one had cut a trench between the enemy forces to prevent the progress of the other one. Another uses the same word to put a trench across a road so no one could pass. Getting the idea? How did Satan stop Paul? In Acts 17, Luke explained that Paul and Silas, along with Timothy, had been in Thessalonica for at least 3 weeks. On 3 consecutive Sabbaths or Sundays, Paul had gone to the synagogue and demonstrated convincing proofs that Jesus had to die for the sins of the world, be buried, and would rise again the 3rd day. While some Jews and many Gentiles believed, this kind of preaching also produced many enemies. The opposition went to the market, hired a bunch of thugs, and started a riot. When the authorities went looking for Paul and his group, they ducked out the back door, and the mob grabbed Jason, his host, and held him as ransom. Paul knew if he went back to Thessalonica as he wanted to, Jason's life was imperiled with either prison or death, so Paul chose not to do that. Okay, Satan threw a roadblock in his way. He effectively shut him down. That's what an enemy will do, you know. Paul couldn't change the response of wicked men who hated him because he preached the cross of Jesus Christ. Neither can you prevent your enemy from doing what he can to hurt you as well. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you represent. It all comes with the territory. When that happens, Jesus said you should rejoice. He said, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kind of evil against you." Satan is still throwing roadblocks in the path of God's children, things which keep us from accomplishing everything we'd like to do. But he can do nothing which God does not allow.
You've just heard Dr. Harold Sala with Guidelines, a 5-minute commentary on living. If you would like to listen to the program again, download a copy, subscribe to our e-commentary, or view other resources, visit guidelines.org. We would like to hear from you too. You can email us at info@guidelines.org. That's info@guidelines.org. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to join us again for the next edition of Guidelines.